Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Soche. I'm here at the Chamber office. I am the co-chair of the Public Policy and Governmental Affairs Committee for the Chamber, and we're glad this morning to host this webinar, Reinvest in Public Safety, to talk about and inform you on the sales tax referendum coming up for a vote on November 13th, with early voting on October 30th. The Chamber has played a major role in tax issues since I've been on the board for the last 6 or 7 years. And this one is certainly an important matter to discuss. And we have various people on that will be speaking to you today to make presentations and inform you. Some 90 people have signed up for this webinar today to get you the information you need to make an informed decision. So we hope that you will utilize this time to learn and to take what you learn and to pass it on to others so that not only the people on this webinar today, but your sphere of influence can be better informed about this very important issue coming up. So at this particular time, I'd like to turn it over to Michael Sprague for the invocation and pledge.
Would you join me in prayer? Our God, thank you for the rich history in Louisiana and St. Tammany and our chamber to start important events by acknowledging you. We know that the psalmist long ago said, some people trust in chariots, some people trust in horses, but our trust is in the name of the Lord our God. Thank you that your name, your character is faithful, merciful, caring, providing, and you are the waymaker. I pray today for every single person on this call, for business leaders, government leaders, healthcare leaders, and citizens, for the way that they step up and pull the load in our community and invest mightily in the future of our community. Lord, tend to the innermost needs of each one on the call today, even those places that are raw and bruised and nicked in the deepest part of their souls. Lord, where some may be weary, renew their strength. Where someone feels like quitting, rebuild resilience and tenacity and provide them a good friend. We thank you for the platform today, for a great conversation. May it be very informative. May there be transparency, room for significant questions and dialogue that leads to an informed group of citizens and citizens committed to finding common ground and the common good. For each one in this meeting, we pray that you bless and keep. May your face shine upon each one and give each one your peace. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. And now will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Michael. Before our first speaker, Michael Vizino, speaks about the reasons for the tax, I want to mention that we have received about a dozen questions prior to hosting this video this morning. Most of those questions will likely be answered during the presentations. However, if they're not, you can use your Q&A button to click and ask for further commentary or other questions that you may have on your mind. I will be talking about or addressing each one of those questions during the question section that we have a little bit later on after the presentations are made. So with that being said, I would like to introduce Michael Vizino, and he is going to tell us about the tax.
Good morning, Mike. And first and foremost, I want to thank you and the Chamber of Commerce for giving us this opportunity. It is an incredibly important day for us. So I just want to thank you for that opportunity. As you mentioned, my name is Michael Vincento. I'm the Director of Public Information for St. Tammany Parish Government. And today I want to walk you guys through this absolutely critical need to continue to fund criminal justice here in our home parish of St. Tammany. November 13th, the voters in our parish are going to be asked to approve the 0.4 of a penny sales tax for the criminal justice funding. Now, we're going to point your attention in this language to the initiative. Please note that it reads that the tax is to be dedicated and used solely for the purpose of funding the parish's state mandated responsibilities. That is important. It's an important distinction from the past initiatives that we're going to talk about a little bit later in this presentation. Now, this is an investment in public safety. St. Tammany Parish is one of the safest in all of Louisiana, and that does not happen by accident. It happens because our sheriff, our district attorney, and our judges all work collaboratively, and a vote yes on this initiative is what will give them the funding and the money to do so. 0.4 of a penny is going to raise approximately $22.2 million of the criminal justice system's $30 million operating budget. A vote no would prevent parish government from having the ability to continue to fund the criminal justice system, depleting our fund balance by March of next year. It is a well-functioning criminal justice system that leads to our safety, our serenity, and overall a higher quality of life. Now, this tax is simply about keeping us safe. Data scientists have compiled information showing that St. Tammany is rated higher than all of its neighbors with one of the lowest crime rates in the state of Louisiana. It's important to note, based on the latest census information, St. Tammany is the 4th biggest parish in the state of Louisiana, and it has the highest crime rating for those top 4 or so parishes. So, what will 0.4 of a penny fund? Each year, funds are going to be budgeted for state mandated agencies based on priorities. But here's a historical look at how the funding has been used, with $12.1 million being dedicated to the sheriff's office operations, $8.1 million being dedicated to fund the DA's office, $4.6 million to operate the Justice Center, and $3.4 million being there to pay for our judges in their operations. Without the tax since 2018, over the last 3 years, our parish has been using the fund balance to pay for our criminal justice needs. So how has that fund balance been depleted? Well, dramatically. In 2018, we had almost $25 million in the parish fund balance. That fell to just over $20 million in 2019, then to $15 million in 2020. And this year, that dropped to $8.5 million. And we anticipate by March of next year, the fund balance will be completely gone. For those of you wondering what the importance of the fund balance might be, think of the fund balance as the money that the parish holds in reserve to cover the cost of services or government during unexpected deficits like hurricanes, pandemics, which we've seen a lot of in the last few months and years, and economic downturns. It's basically your savings account. It's money that's set aside to cover the funds. That's not in your checking account, but you still need it. And that fund balance is also critical to the parish's bonding and lending abilities that allows us to manage the infrastructure that we have here in St. Tammany Parish. Now, the way this works, our finance office has set formulas for maintaining a proper minimum fund balance. And as you can see here, the parish looks to reserve revenue for that rainy day in a calculated way that's critical for the way we operate here at St. Tammany Parish government. It should not be lost on anyone that our parish has also experienced a population growth that's extraordinary. From nearly 111,000 people in 1980, we have grown to more than 263,000 plus in 2020. That is almost 2.5 times greater than it were in 1980. And yet the tax we're proposing today is less than it was in 1980 when an earlier iteration of this tax was introduced. It has been asked whether parish government must fund criminal justice. The answer is simply yes. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it's the law. State law requires parishes to pay for the agencies, including the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office, and their correctional facility, the 22nd JDC judges, their staff, and various criminal justice offices, including constables, the justices of the peace, city courts, and more. Funding our criminal justice system costs the parish approximately $30 million. This sales tax being proposed will generate $22.2 million, and parish government is going to put its share to lessen the tax, as your parish government covers $8 million of the $30 million that's needed. Now, some wonder if parish government can cut their spending in other places to cover the expenses of criminal justice funding, but the parish has already cut $16 million in expenses, and any additional cuts would impact the vital services that we offer. That's not just politicians and bureaucrats saying we can't cut any further. An independent review advisory committee comprised of area business leaders poured over the budget in 11 sessions, more than 20 hours of scrutiny, and they determined that nothing additional could or should be cut. Finally, crime knows no boundaries, and that's a good reason to share this tax between our homeowners and our neighbors and the people who come to visit St. Tammany Parish. In fact, 40 cents of every sales tax dollar comes from a visitor, making the burden on our citizens less. Now, some of you have asked, why is this a sales tax and not a property tax proposition? The primary reason, as I just mentioned, is fairness. Crime knows no boundaries. This is a criminal justice tax. It should be shared by the people who live here and the people who come to visit. I should note that the Independent Revenue Review Advisory Committee strongly recommended that the funding comes from a sales tax revenue as well. It's time for action. Long ago, the people of our parish chose to invest heavily in education. That was a decision that paid big dividends. And today, we have one of, if not the most enviable school district in Louisiana. More than 44% of our property tax revenue goes to education and making our schools great in what they are today. If we were to put criminal justice funding on top of property taxes, we would add another 9 mils to the property owner's expense. Some want to know how this tax initiative is different from the previous ones. Well, unlike those before this initiative, this one has been narrowed to fund critical operations of the criminal justice system. This is not a tax for new construction or major capital upgrades. There is no new parking garage in this initiative, no storage facility. In fact, 97% of these funds would go exclusively to criminal justice funding and 3% to other state mandated agencies or expenses like elections. Now, I'll let you guys go through and take a good look at the numbers we have provided here to see the actual breakdown, seeing that 42 going to the sheriff, 28% to the DA, and 16% to the Justice Center, 12% to the judges, and 3% going to the other state mandated agencies that St. Tammany Parish government is required to fund. Now, some of you have asked if this projected casino revenue could fund criminal justice. As we let you guys continue to catch up, just to make sure we're all on the same page. There we go. So simply the answer is no, if the projected casino revenue could fund criminal justice. Even the most successful casino would only contribute approximately $3 million in taxes to parish government. That is nowhere close to the $30 million that we need to properly fund our criminal justice system. Plus, the gaming revenues is hard to predict because the industry is always changing with new gaming platforms always being invented on a regular basis. We cannot rely on casino revenue because not only will the casino not provide the tax dollars that we need, but also because there's no guarantee that the voters of St. Tammany are going to approve the casino. To be direct, this really and simply is a quality of life tax. We invested heavily in education and it paid off. We like our safe community, and if we invest in this criminal justice funding, we will remain safe. This tax keeps our parish safe because it will keep our sheriff, our district attorney, and our judges all working together to fight crime here in St. Tammany. 4/10 of a penny will protect our superior quality of life that we've all come to know and love here in St. Tammany. Consider for a moment all the taxes, both sales and property, and just over 8% goes to our criminal justice funding. When you analyze what an average family spends per year in sales tax, you quickly realize that the average St. Tammany Parish household will pay just under $25 a year to keep our home parish safe. That's a pretty good investment in our way of life. A vote yes supports criminal justice funding. I hope this PowerPoint and this information has given you the information that you need to make an informed decision on November 13th. And to the chamber and all of your team, we certainly thank you for your time and interest this morning.
Thank you, Michael. Very well done, very informative. I think you covered a lot in that. Certainly answered a couple of questions that I had. Let me say this at this time. Our board has not made a final decision about supporting or not supporting this tax. We do have an upcoming board meeting. The board at the last board meeting decided we wanted to help host this seminar and learn and get all the board members engaged so that we could make a proper decision. So that was very informative, and we thank you for your time putting that together. Our next speaker is Chris Kaufman. Chris participated in the committee that you had mentioned earlier, I believe. Is that correct, Chris? You were on the sales tax panel. I think there were about 24 people. We had a representative on that panel also, and were kept informed as time went on as to how that was progressing. So I'm sure you're going to discuss a little bit about that. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Chris Kaufman.
Thank you, Michael. I'll start by saying I want to thank President Cooper, because I think his approach to this proposition by creating a community-based advisory committee was really a pulse of our parish, a poll, if you will, of members that make up our parish. We had members as mayors, as you said, Mike, the Chamber of Commerce, faith-based groups, Home Builders Association. We had a great makeup on our committee when we started in December of 2020. The committee worked over 4.5 months to arrive to our recommendation to the parish council. You know, one of the first things we did as a committee, we created guiding principles and responsibilities. And I just want to cover those things because we wanted to be focused on our mission as a committee from the beginning. Honesty, integrity, transparency, focus on the mission, and dedication to evaluating all available options to determine a path forward. And the last piece of that, you know, I want to touch on was the look at all options, because the committee, I have to tell you, we scrubbed the parish's budget, the sheriff's office budget, the DA's budget. We went to one point to have a budget workshop so that we would have a very detailed understanding of all the budgets, what we were faced with as a committee. And Michael's presentation touched on many of the items that came out of our committee as well. Why would it be a tax and not a millage? Why would we push this cost on to people that just own property? We would need almost 9 mills to equal what a 0.40 cent of a tax would generate. Why wouldn't we let people that drive through our parish, visitors, pay for 20 to 25% of the taxes? So our committee looked at every option, including rededication. I was one of the people on the committee that thought I was going to find money. I was going to look to rededicate monies from possible streets or roads. Quite frankly, look at this past Hurricane Ida, the flooding, some of the congestion with traffic. Business stops when commerce stops. So there was no money that we could rededicate to fund this state mandate on our parish. All 64 parishes are mandated to fund the criminal justice system tax. You know, it's just one of those things that our committee said, what happened over 3 years? How did we get where we are today? Quite frankly, we think we needed to do a better job in educating our public, which we're doing today. This is really kicking off the campaign, and the chamber has taken the lead in this process. But over 3 years, how did we pay for this? There were some reserves through our budget audits. We realized that the sheriff and DA has been funding over the last 3 years, portions of their budget that they're really not mandated to fund. They helped drag this along for the past 3 years. And I have to say, as a committee member, there was a sense of urgency and a timeline that we felt that it was critical for us to do our job and make a recommendation, knowing that the parish general fund would run out March of 2022. And one of the things that came out in our research was, how much money did we generate with the first proposition that funded this justice jail tax, and we had a tax certificate that paid for the construction of the Justice Center, the parking garage. Well, there was a note. It was $5 million a year that was funding both the jail and Justice Center. That was just going towards a note. The rest of it was funding, as you heard in Michael's presentation, the operations of both of those agencies. A lot of it was labor, for manpower. Over 250 employees were being paid. I don't think all of us knew that we were funding not only the building of the Justice Center and the parking garage and maintenance to the sheriff's office jail. We were also funding the labor that went along with both of those agencies. One of the things we said also was what happens if this tax fails, because this is a parish-wide proposition. And I believe, it's not our parish president's by himself's job to propose this and get it to pass. But this is a tax that we felt that should unify our entire parish, come together. This one affects all of our quality of life throughout this parish, regardless of who the parish president is today. And we really embraced this proposition as a committee. And we wound up looking at a proposed 7-year tax. Why 7 years? We want to earn your trust in how we operate government. We'll revisit this in 7 years. Give us a chance to utilize the 0.40 of a cent sales tax over the next 7 years and allow us to be able to fund both of these agencies, going forward. And being one of the fourth fastest growing parish in our state, the quality of life is in question today. The rise in crime. We don't want to have a catch and release justice in jail system. We want to maintain the quality of life that all of us expected and want to continue as residents in St. Tammany Parish. And with that being said, Mike, I don't have anything else. 40 cents on $100, .40 cents on $100, $4 on 1,000, $40 on 10,000 is what it would cost you. This is a small price to pay to live in St. Tammany Parish and support our criminal justice tax. So thank you all so much.
Okay, Chris, thank you. And thank you for working with the chamber and others on property tax issues that we had back in 2020 when we had the reassessment, working with all your fire districts and holding down some of the roll-ups where you could, and being a part of this committee. We really appreciate there may be some questions that come up later that we'll need to call upon you on, but thank you for your presentation and your participation. You mentioned transparency. That is so refreshing now with the current council, the administration. And I just want to say, not only transparency, but collaboration. The committee was a collaborative effort, and the committee was established, not fighting, not swimming uphill with the administration, but it was easily received. And I think it allowed for some good communication. And like you said, the 7-year sunset is a big deal, and it's not common, particularly on property taxes. That would have been another issue. But thank you again.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Donna O'Daniels with the Tourist Commission. Donna is going to speak on the value of the sales tax. Thank you, Donna.
Thanks so much, Mike. And I would just like to thank you and Lacey and the Chamber Board of Directors for giving us this opportunity. I'd also like to thank President Cooper for setting up the committee. And I think that, you know, the chief did an excellent job really explaining the work that the committee did, the hours that we put into really having a thorough understanding of what the budgets of all of these agencies were. I do want to point out that the St. Tammany Parish Tourist Commission is not, it's not an agency of parish government. We're a political subdivision of the state, and we are charged with marketing St. Tammany Parish to visitors. And so what I'd like to do today is just to explain a little bit, as has been discussed previously, what the impact of those visitor dollars that are being spent in St. Tammany Parish can have, and why this really steered us toward a sales tax instead of a property tax. Jessica, can you pull up that first slide, please? So as you can see, in 2019, we had 2.63 million visitors come to St. Tammany Parish. That's roughly the size of the population of the city of Chicago. Most folks, when I tell them that, they're pretty astonished by that number, but St. Tammany Parish actually has the 4th largest visitor economy in the state of Louisiana after Orleans, Jefferson, and East Baton Rouge parishes. Next slide, please. So to put that in perspective, visitors spent about $835 million in St. Tammany in 2019. So that's as if every man, woman, and child in the city of Chicago came to St. Tammany Parish and each spent almost $300 during that 12-month period. That's a significant amount of money flowing into our parish. Next slide, please. So this gives you an idea of what that looks like, how it breaks down in terms of visitors who are overnighting in St. Tammany, which was just under $1 million, just under $1 million in 2019, and then about 67% are day trips. Next slide. This slide will show you where those visitors came from. And just to give you some perspective that our visitors aren't just local, they aren't just folks coming from Louisiana. People are traveling to St. Tammany from all over the world. And these are overnight visitors. These are actually, each of these little dots represents a unique visitor mobile device that was tracked to St. Tammany Parish during 2019. Next slide. This shows you, it hones in a little bit more on the United States, because while we do have international visitors, about 98.7% of these devices are coming from the US. And next slide again. And here you really hone in on the region. And the reason I wanted you to see this slide is when we're counting visitors, we're not counting everybody you see in that big blank area around St. Tammany Parish. Essentially, anybody, when we were doing this study, anybody who lived or worked within 50 miles of St. Tammany Parish was not counted in those numbers. So that's a huge number of people right there that, that are coming from New Orleans, from Baton Rouge, from the Mississippi Gulf Coast, who are coming to St. Tammany, but these numbers don't even include them. Next slide. And in order for us to count them, what we counted as an overnight visitor, the average length of stay for those overnights was more than 3 days. They were staying here for 74 hours. And to count as a day tripper, they had to be here for at least 6 hours. And you can see that that average for day trips was 6.1 hours. So essentially, this is not counting the people who are just passing through on the interstate and are maybe stopping to get gas, but not spending any more money. These are people who are spending a significant amount of time in St. Tammany Parish, and that is generating income. Next slide, please. And this shows you our top states of origin from all over the region and the US are coming to St. Tammany Parish, and most importantly, they're spending money. And then the final slide, please. one of the numbers that we look at on a regular basis is our visitor to resident ratio. And this is something that, it changes from month to month, from year to year. But yesterday I pulled up what our visitor to resident ratio is for the previous 4 quarters. And looking at those numbers, what that came up with was a 0.78. That means that for every 100 residents of St. Tammany Parish on any given day, there were an average of 78 visitors here. So with that many visitors coming to and through St. Tammany Parish, spending that much time and spending that much money, it only made sense to us that those visitors also have a little bit of skin in the game, so to speak. Crime knows no boundaries. And certainly those visitors are benefiting from the fact that we currently have a strong law enforcement and criminal justice system here in St. Tammany. And that really needs to continue. And I just want to say, as a resident of St. Tammany since 1995, as everyone has mentioned, the 2 things that were most important to me when we moved here were education and safety. And I think that this is really an investment in the continued safety of our residents and our quality of life. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Donna. Tying the travelers to what's been said earlier from Michael and from Chris about how many people travel through here, buy gas, buy food, stay, do other business, and how sales tax can tap into those travelers, and certainly they don't feel it. They do it, and it helps the parish, and it should help the parish. They come here, they stay, they enjoy our services, and they should help pay for our community services. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So at this time, we have a Q&A period. I am looking at the questions that were sent in earlier. Most of those have been answered in the presentations directly. But if anyone has any questions, this would be the time. We have a few minutes here, about 15 minutes 10 minutes or so for questions. If someone wants to ask a question, I would like it at this time to call on Matt Faust. I think Matt, are you on the call?
Yes.
Matt is with the assessor's office. He is not on the agenda to speak, but Matt has been very active in this effort. Obviously has a big role at the assessor's office. Again, we work closely with him, the chamber, on the property tax issues. But Matt, do you want to say a few things about why a sales tax versus a property tax? That's one of the questions.
Sure, Mike, thanks. Yes. First of all, let me say that Michael and Donna did a really good job of explaining the positive side of a sales tax rather than a property tax. But let me talk a little bit specifically about the discussion on the property tax. As you all know, 2020 was a reassessment year. So there's a big block of people in the parish that had to pay an additional property tax. And I think a lot of us felt like coming back the following year with another property tax would not fly. Looking at the numbers yesterday and accounting for change orders and pension funding, I think it would be closer to 10 mills that would be needed to generate that 22.3 million rather than non-mills. And when you add that mills onto, let's say, Slidell, you would probably end up with one of the top 2 or 3 highest millages in the state in the city of Slidell by adding that. And then one last point I'll make, why the millage was probably not a good idea, is that those mills would not be collected until 2022. So you would not be able to generate any income next year with a millage. And as you know, the parish runs out of money in March. So, I guess the parish would have to go borrow money or something, but the mills wouldn't be collected 22. So those were a couple additional reasons why we gravitated toward a sales tax rather than a millage.
Great, great points. So thank you, Matt, for that.
Okay.
And any other questions? I did see one pop up here, maybe two. Okay, let's see. So we have a question. Can you tell us where we rank statewide in taxes, both sales and property? Do you believe we should restructure all taxes? And is that even possible? Matt, you got your finger up?
I can address the property tax question. I believe we are sixth highest in the state for property tax.
Okay, and on the sales side, maybe Michael can address that?
Yeah, I'll address that. Our current sales tax is at 8.7%, which is still below the state average of 9.2%. To give you a breakdown, the state is 4.45. Schools get 2.00. Law enforcement gets 0.25, and the parish for roads gets 2.00 to add up to 8.7. Again, which is still well below the state average of 9.2.
Okay, thank you. Many of y'all may recall that we had several years ago, there was a proposed economic development tax that the chamber opposed strongly. One of the reasons was because it would limit parish's ability to do additional sales tax referendums as the one that we have before us today. And that economic development money, where it may have gone for good purposes, I'm not saying it wouldn't, would have restricted those funds. So that effort, the council saw to overturn that after the chamber and others got involved, and it was a big deal, and it's proven today to even be a bigger deal with what we have before us. That would have put us way above the national average in addition to the state average. The other question that we have is, how does the tax affect me when I go to the store? If normally I would pay $4 for milk, will that now be $4.36 or something like that? So as Chris had stated, I'll go ahead and let Chris answer that question.
Yes, I mean, it's 0.4 of a penny on the first $100 that you spend. So we're talking about fractions of a penny when we talk about how much it will cost somebody when they get to a grocery store or to a retail store. $4 on $1,000 spent. So obviously, we think the sales tax is proportionate with people's income. If your disposable income is $1,000 a year, you're paying $4 additional dollars for that year. So it's tenths of a penny is what I would say, Mike, to answer that question.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Let me also clarify, when I mentioned earlier the economic development tax, it was an economic development district tax. But the district was set up along major sales tax corridors, which would have taken in the majority of the businesses that we have here, and a lot of the businesses that Donna mentioned are being supported by outside visitors. Thank you, Chris, for that. Any other, let's see, Lacey, I think that was the two questions that we had.
I'd like to address, if I can. I saw another question asking about, just the daily purchases. And for the average St. Tammany Parish household, it's about $70,000 a year of income. This breaks down, for those folks, this would break down to about $2 a month, about $25 a year is what it would cost them if this tax were to pass. So that's for the average. Yes.
Okay.
And you could add, times 2, times 3 based on your income, and just follow the math.
Okay, thank you, Michael, for that. The last question we have here is, will the DA and the sheriff really need to make cuts to their services? What will they cut? Chris, you were on the panel. Would you like to address that?
Yeah, yes, Mike. I can tell you, just looking when we went through the budgets and we met with representatives from both agencies, the sheriff has the potential of reducing the jail operation to half. And when I say that, I want to mention that this is an essential service. It's probably the most essential service when it comes to the safety of our public in St. Tammany Parish. The DA's office, it is a direct connection to the work that the law enforcement agencies do in our parish is the criminal justice system, the courthouse. The DA doesn't collect enough in fees to even fund a large portion of his budget. If I remember, somewhere around 12%. So without this tax, the DA's office won't be able to function as we know it today. It'll change how we do business when it comes to the criminal justice system. When I think about Mike, I just want to add the municipal police departments. St. Tammany Parish is known from a law enforcement standpoint. If you come to St. Tammany and do a crime, you're going to get caught. I think the main thing we need to focus on is not catch and release in St. Tammany Parish. Let's prosecute. Let's let the message be strong if you come to St. Tammany Parish with crime. Our population's growing. Usually you see an uptick in crime that goes along with that population. This is the last time at this given time with the growth of St. Tammany that we should even be considering a reduction in the criminal justice system. So I'm gonna quote the DA at the end of our budget workshop. And by the way, I asked for the budget workshop after the audit of all three agencies' budget. I wanted to have an in-person dialogue where we could have questions and answers and really get everyone's questions that was on the committee answered. And Leslie Long being the finance director through two parish presidents, she's the finance expert. She was able to answer everyone's questions to allow us to get to a point of a vote. And I think that's important when it comes to what we're trying to accomplish today. And again, essential services in St. Tammany, let's not let this tax fail. The DA, I'm gonna close out by his quote. At the end of the workshop, our DA, Warren Montgomery, said, "This will be a train wreck." And I haven't forgotten that. It's embedded in my brain right now, that the DA of our parish, who we elected, is telling us this is gonna be a train wreck. So if there's ever a time that we have a bipartisan approach to a sales tax, a proposition that's going to be on the ballot, this is the time when our parish should come together, all walks of life, all parties come together in this proposal, in this proposition that will be on the November 13th ballot.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Just to add to that, I reinforce the 7-year sunset and the comments that you made earlier about giving the parish an opportunity. Is typically taxes, if I've seen in the past, been for a minimum of 10 years, typically 15 or 20 years, or no sunset. So what that sunset means is that the bigger questions about the budget structure, how St. Tammany does business globally, there will be continuing conversations that I'm aware of that will occur. And 7 years sounds like a long time, but when it comes to government, how government moves, that's a pretty tight time frame. And I know that the commission pushed for that. So again, thank you for your comments.
Mike, if I can add on the 7 years, because we want to gain our public's trust. And we figured 7 years, as you well said, government needs time to turn this around. Of course, we're running on a short timeline, but 7 years, we felt that it would also challenge parish government to also continue to scrub their budget, because they still have to fund over $10 million of mandates. So they're going to have a very tight budget and a budget process to be able to fund this. We do believe with the growth in St. Tammany Parish and how sales tax is collected based on the population, the economy, it does fluctuate. So we think that we'll be able to pick up some of the sales tax revenue to help keep up with the increased cost of living going forward when it comes to funding the criminal justice system.
Thank you, Chris. Our last speaker is President Michael Cooper, who would like to make some remarks. Mike, are you on? There he is. Morning.
Thank you, Michael, and thanks, everybody. Taking office in January of 2020, I did not anticipate the challenges that we would face for the coming year. The COVID-19 pandemic, preparation for 8 storms in the Gulf of Mexico with their sights set on Southeast Louisiana and St. Tammany. What I did know and expected upon taking office in 2020 was that we were facing a fiscal challenge as it pertains to our obligations to fund the critical offices of the sheriff, our DA, our judges, and court system. When the 2 quarter-cent sales tax renewals that were dedicated to the parish jail and justice center failed in 2018, over $20 million in lost revenue was realized in 2019, 2020, and 2021. This now is an opportunity to restore this lost revenue. 0.4 of a penny will generate $22.2 million per year and will be dedicated and used solely for the purpose of funding our state mandated responsibilities, including the sheriff's office, correctional facility, the DA's office, the 22nd Judicial Court system and judges, constables and justices of the peace. We pay a supplemental pay to each one of them. Our city court of East St. Tammany and city marshal, the public defender's office, and other mandated needs. On behalf of St. Tammany Parish government, I'm asking you as business owners, property owners, residents, voters, either individually and as a group, to recognize the need for funding our state mandated obligations to the sheriff, DA, judges, constables and JP, and more. We are the 4th largest parish in Louisiana, and as our population continues to grow, so do the needs of our criminal justice system. Your support is needed in order to restore the revenue lost in 2018. I want to give my thanks to the Chamber for hosting this webinar, and to today's panelists, Chief Chris Kaufman of Fire District 1, Donna O'Daniels, and Michael Vincino. Thank you for sharing that information this morning. I want to thank members of the Revenue Review Advisory Committee that worked for 4.5 months in reviewing our budgets and coming up with a recommendation that we can live with. I want to, part of that advisory committee included parish-wide elected officials as well as municipal elected leaders as well. I want to thank St. Tammany Parish Government Administration and Parish Council, particularly Leslie Long, our CFO. The leadership and staff of St. Tammany Corp, who facilitated the meetings and discussion, and then compiled the information for a final recommendation to present to the Parish Council and the administration, and ultimately for a vote of the people. So we are moving now towards a vote on November 13th, with early voting beginning on Saturday, October 30th. And I ask each and every one of you to support St. Tammany Parish government and our criminal justice system with a vote this fall. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. And on behalf of the chamber, our 1,100 members who represent about 30,000 individuals in employment, we thank your administration for your transparency, your collaborativeness. I also want to say that this is a big issue, but as Chris mentioned, and we've mentioned about the 7-year sunset on this, there is a lot of other things going on in this parish. We know, everybody knows there's infrastructure needs. We've got codes and ordinances being rewritten to determine, who should pay for the impacts of development. How should that occur? Where it's clear and concise to both the constituents here and developers who want to grow, or other people who want to grow businesses here. We are recording this session today. It will be available and sent out to the participants who signed in for this webinar. Likely it will go out as early as this afternoon or tomorrow morning at the latest. And so if you were taking notes, great, but you're going to have all of this on a recording that you again can share with your employees, your family, your friends, so that we can get the vote out. That's one of the things that the chamber always supports, is getting the vote out so that the voices of the people are heard loud and clear to the administration, the other elected officials that we have here. I'd like to ask Michael, who had the majority of the time today, is there anything else that you would like to add or that you learned in this presentation today? Any final comments?
Yeah, so I actually just want to share with everybody who, listened in today. I know this was an awful lot of information. All of this is available at the website that just went live. It's keepsttamanysafe.org. Again, that's keepsttamanysafe.org, and that's ST, not spelled out. So that's all the information that we shared today. Any information that our citizens and you guys need to make an informed decision, it'll be there.
Okay, and since you're the public information director for the parish, I guess if anyone has any other questions, they can email you.
My inbox is open 24/7, so send them my way.
Okay, so we are right on time. And I would again like to thank everybody who participated, not just who signed up today, but participated in the preparation of this presentation. And we hope you have a great day and a great week. Thank you very much.